So welcome to number 5 of Middos. We've covered how to role model learning the mitzvahs of the mind and the mitzvah of Tochacha. We spent a lot of time on 29 metaphors for really building and reinforcing the idea that we experience life through thought, nowhere else. So we're ready now to look at number 5, which is the next best, second best, to role modeling directly good middos, is Sipurei Tzadikim, stories of Tzadikim. There are a lot of resources on this. Many people have been extremely inspired by reading or hearing a story of tzidkas, of righteousness, of middos tovos, and there, b'chazdei Hashem, there are literally hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of svarim, of books today, in English, Hebrew, and other languages, describing the lives of tzaddikim and the nisyonis and what they were able to overcome, which can be a tremendous source of inspiration for children. So I'm going to just mention a few of those resources, and my recommendation is that, the Rebbe is probably doing this already, is to dafka choose stories. Not necessarily, you have to be careful of stories of Gedolim, which are portrayed as though they were born that way and they were masmidim from a very young age, because I think without deliberately meaning to, many of those stories innocently inject yiush into children and adults in the sense that, oh, well, I'll never be like that. That's not, that I don't relate to that. So I'm referring to stories of Eliyahu Navi, the Baal Shem Tov, tzaddikim like Baba Sali. I'm going to show you a few of the samples. Here's an excellent book on the life of Baba Sali. These are simple stories of a righteous individual and the Moifsim in his particular case, but they're still inspiring to listen to the tar and the kedusha of a towering tzaddik. You're probably familiar with the Sefer Yerushalayim Shel Mala. I think there's about 5 volumes. This is one of them. In English, it's translated as the Heavenly City. Also, beautiful stories of the tzaddikim of yesteryear who lived in Yerushalayim. There are excellent stories from Tales of the Gemara. This is really based on Ein Yaakov, the Agadata. Chazal tell us that the Agadata of Shas is Mamshich the Lev and helps a person to nurture the Yirat Shemaim, Avas Hashem, learning Tana de Beliyahu. But I'm asking that the Rebbeim should select, preferably read the stories in advance to identify which stories they believe are appropriate for their children's age. Stories of Eliyahu Navi, I think there are much more recent editions of the same, but this was written by Rabbi Klapholz. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it exactly, Rabbi Yisrael Yaakov Klapholz. And he's also the author of there's about 3 or 4 or 5 volumes, and the same 4 or 5 volumes or so of Tales of the Baal Shem Tov. Also very inspiring stories. Sometimes the children are inspired by kids speak, and you can even read them the people speak, that's as in adults. And this goes into many, many volumes. So you've really got plenty of stories. I would not do more than one every few days, not necessarily every single day. There really is a lot to cover, but don't underestimate the inspiration children can have from Sipurei Tzadikim. Rav Nachman of Breslov tells that when he was 6 years old, and he lived in Middos, the actual home of his great-grandfather, the Baal Shem Tov, he remembers being inspired at that age to want to be very close to Hashem and be Oved Hashem. Bein Adam L'Chavero, Bein Adam L'Makam, become a Talmud Chacham and a tzaddik. He was inspired by the stories he heard many, many times at the table in his home of tzaddikim who were Talmidim of the Baal Shem Tov and who would come and tell over stories to each other about their Rebbe, the Baal Shem Tov himself. And Rav Nachman himself attributes his deep inspiration at such a young age to experiencing sitting sometimes under the table listening to the stories of his great-grandfather. So these are very simple ways to help children be inspired by the fact that you have a Yerusha. You have an inheritance of not just 3,330 plus years of a unbroken Masorah, from Har Sinai, but the Torah lifestyle, learning Torah and role modeling from our great grandparents and our parents has produced millions and millions of tzaddikim and tzidkanias, millions of individuals at a young and old age who have lived a life of tremendous righteous kindness and good deeds, role modeling Middos Tovos. So there's a lot to call upon from our Yerusha, our inheritance. So that's number one. Number two of this is there are excellent stories known as tales of Hasidim, tales of inspiration. Many of them are said from Rabbi Finkelman, I believe his name is, and you can get them from 718-438-3904. 3904. One more time, 718-438-3904. You can call them. They used to be in tape form. It's now CDs, now it's MP3s, now it's downloadable, whatever. But there's hundreds of those tapes. And if you select the ones that you believe are apropos for your class, some of them go on for a good hour or so. So you can split it up into 5 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time, where there'll be story time, something that the children can look forward to, even as an incentive, and play that in the class. It's downloadable. A third resource is, of course, the many stories that have come out as of biographies of towering Gedolim, Torah giants. My only precaution, my only warning is to select stories that don't portray them as never having ever made any mistakes and never having fallen and only risen, because that's not an honest and fair portrayal. Ein Tzadik Ba'aretz she'aseh tov v'lo yechta. That's Koheles, Perek Zion. That's Shlom HaMelech, Baruch HaKodesh. There is no such thing as a tzaddik that doesn't fall and start again. It's true that the Gemara does tell us 5 exceptions. I think Gemara and Shabbos, Nun Hey, Nun Vav, round about there. But other than those 5, Yeshua ben Nun, Binyamin ben Yaakov, Kalev ben David, Yishai Avi David, Amram Avi Moshe. Other than those, nobody is a perfect tzaddik amor all the time. It just doesn't happen that way. That's not reality. So just be very careful that any stories you do choose, be careful about that subtlety. And this is not the place, because I don't want it to sound political, because I have no interest in going in that direction at all. There was a beautiful biography written by the son of Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, The Making of a Gadol. Very sadly, it was put in Cherem, and he was put in Cherem, which is quite remarkable. And the basic taina, the basic complaint was that he was portraying his father as too much of a human, with human frailties, and so that it's a tremendous danger to play that game. You have to trust Chazal, and if we're going to play that game, then you've got to wipe out the whole lifestyle of Reish Lakish before he met Rabbi Yochanan. If you're going to play that game, you have to wipe out the whole history of Rabbi Akiva before he went to yeshiva. If we're going to play the game of whitewashing the lives of tzaddikim and Talmidei Chachamim who struggled, then you have to completely wipe out and erase the first 28 years of the life of Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurkanus, the Rabbi Eliezer HaGadol, the Rabbi of Rabbi Akiva, because he became a Baal Tshuva at 28. But so let's not talk about. You can't do that, because that's not acting with integrity, and it's dangerous, because by telling stories in a way that only portrays a tzaddik or Talmud Chacham as kind of having arrived there from nowhere without the struggle is a form of injecting yiush, despair, in ourselves by saying, well, I'll never know Yerushalmi by the age of 2. I'll never know Shas Bavli Balpeh by the age of 11. I mean, I'm already way past that, so there's no hope for me. And so what's the point even in trying? That's the danger you want to avoid when you go into the arena of stories of tzaddikim and Talmidei Chachamim. I know from Rabbi Tauber, Rabbi Chanan Tauber, Rosh Kollel in LA, and Rav and Paisek, that his inspiration to Breslov Chassidus, round about the age of of 16 to 19 or so, something around about that age, was the fact that when he read Sichas Oran, Rav Nachman would speak openly about his struggles. So much so that he would even talk about having made a commitment to serve Hashem and break a certain taiva and then fall not once but hundreds of times the same day. Taivas Achila, whatever it was. When you portray tzaddikim as real people, Talmidei Chachamim who struggle to stay focused and learn. Reb Chaim Kanievsky writes in his chapter on Torah in Orchas Yosher that it's a tremendous mistake, and he quotes his father, the Stipler. It's a tremendous mistake to portray Talmidei Chachamim as people who are the brilliant minds. He said the vast majority of those who were successful in learning Torah were not the Balei Kishrenas. They were the ones who held on to their hasmada, even if they had very weak minds, but they tried again until eventually Hashem did open up their mind and the Torah came pouring in. So that's Reb Chaim Kanievsky, God Ladar. So let's be very cautious and careful about how we approach this when we tell stories to our children. Make sure they are really stories of inspiration and not deflation. So that was number 3. Number 4 of this, I mentioned Kids Speak, and number 5, there are a lot of very good books that are coming out again and again now on teaching children good middos. You have one that just came out, honorable mention, from Gdendel Krohn, a daughter of Rabbi Pesach Krohn. And you also have a book that came out, I think the name of the title was Safety First, which is teaching safety for the children, Kedushas HaGuf, Kedushas HaBris. These are inyanim that if we don't get to our kids first, the street will. And so we don't have a choice. We have to open up. But the first address is role modeling from the teacher, mom and dad, the Rebbe himself, the Mora herself. The second best is Sipurei Tzadikim. Okay, so that takes care of number 5. Now we're ready for number 6 and our final part to Middos, and that is the art of the sale. So welcome to number 6 of Middos. We're up to the art of the deal. How to sell anything to anyone. Yeah, how do you do that? Well, actually, in the world of sales, and I feel comfortable and confident to speak about this, having had a background in advertising, working with my father, Alav Shalom, who many times did commercials for Saatchi and Saatchi. They used to be the largest advertisers in the world. And it's very interesting from the inside of advertising to understand the mechanics. But I'm going to share with you what is a winning formula. It's almost literally fail-safe, which means to say, use this formula and you will win your customer. Mess with the formula, lose the customer. And you have to understand this is extremely important because in the words of Avi Shulman, a veteran educator, taught for over 20 years in first grade, wrote many books and the forerunner and trailblazer in bringing goal setting and public speaking, of which I took his course some 30 years ago. Anything to do with real self-growth, middos, Avi Shulman is the master. So he introduced to me the concept that every single teacher is truly a salesperson by default. Whether you like it or not, you are a salesperson. And ask yourself, as a teacher, what are you selling? So the first thing that usually comes to mind is, well, I'm selling information. I'm selling academics. I'm selling skills, reading accuracy, reading fluency, vocabulary. I'm teaching children numerals and their value and building their math skills so they can do addition and then subtraction, eventually multiplication, etc. So you could argue that's basically my terms of employment, but when you ask yourself, what else are you selling as a teacher, as a Torah teacher? Whether you're teaching Torah, whether you're teaching general studies, it's the same question. You're not just selling information. You're not just selling academics and skills. It's way beyond that. Because what else are you meant to be selling as a Torah teacher, as a Torah role model? Of what? Now, I don't have an audience, a live audience in front of me right now to bounce off so that I could take your answers, which you know the answers to this question, and put them on a flip chart behind me, which you can't see right now, but it's coming soon, don't worry. So I'm going to have to be the audience as well. So you are selling yourself, whoever you are. If you come into the classroom and you're prepared, the children will know it. If you come into the classroom and you haven't planned the lesson, the children will know it. You're selling organization or disorganization. If you're coming into the classroom and you take yourself seriously, the children will know it. If you make a rule in the classroom and you don't take yourself seriously, the children will know it. If you make a rule, hands only, otherwise I'm not calling upon you, but kids who shout out, I inevitably call upon, while there's other kids who are listening to my original rule and their hands are still high up in the air, and meanwhile I'm communicating back and forth with other kids who are shouting out, the kids will know, I don't have to take you seriously, dear Rebbe Mora, because you don't take yourself seriously, so why should I? We are selling everything that we are. Honesty, integrity. Our relationship to Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to be obvious when the children see how we make a bracha on the food or drink, how we behave during the meal, how we play with them during recess if we do, and how we play and how good we are in our middos in not calling out names and complimenting kids on their excellent efforts in passing the ball, winning a shot, being graceful about losing. They are picking up everything about us. So let's ask ourselves, in the formula of a salesperson, teacher, always remember the back of your mind, when I talk about sales, I'm really talking about teaching. But I'm going to use this as a very powerful metaphor. Because imagine you're entering a store and the salesperson behind the counter, behind him are shelves, and on the shelves are lots of jars, and on each jar there's a label, and the label defines what's inside the jar, the product or the service that this store is selling you. So the customer walks in and asks for a particular product, to which you will then ask how much of it do you require, which brand, etc. So in this very simple analogy, who is the customer? Oh, that's your student. Could be your biological child as well. Who's the salesperson? Oh, that's the teacher. And what are the products? Oh, those are all the items I'm selling. So let's get this very clear. I'm redefining myself at this moment as a salesperson. I'm redefining the child, student, as a customer. And now what we really need to do is define the products that we're selling. So it's true you're teaching information. Okay, you're teaching Surah Isis and Nakudas and blending, teaching Shroshim, improving suffixes, you're teaching reading accuracy, reading fluency, you're teaching children how to break words down, reconstruct them, recognize problems in the pasuk and look for answers. And once they are able to learn Rashi and Radak and Sephora and Ramban, so they can start analyzing psukim, all this is true. It's also true that you're responsible for teaching them and helping them learn Tariag mitzvahs, which is the backbone of Mishnayos, teaching them the storyline, building block number 3. And in these 3 building blocks, language acquisition, and in the Tariag mitzvahs and the storyline, you're providing the children the ability to get the big picture and be able to home in into greater detail later on. So all that is content related and skill related. Now we're going to look at what else are you teaching, selling, in addition to information and skills. And the simple answer to that is Avas Hashem. Are you selling Yiras Hashem? Are you selling Avas Achayim? Yeah, the way you and I walk into a classroom with or without a smile is making a statement of who I am in this moment. I'm happy to be here with my class. If I'm smiling directly at this student, I'm saying I'm happy you are in my class. If I'm actually opening and I'm zipping my mouth and saying a greeting, I am reinforcing my smile with, I'm so happy that you're here. Good morning. How wonderful to see you. If you've got a specific compliment to make about what they're wearing, you may want to say that. But what I'm bringing out is very, very simple. You're selling Avas Achayim. You love life. You love people. You love your students. You love teaching. You're passionate about your subject matter. If you're not any of those, so let's learn how to be more of that or make a different career choice. I'm not suggesting that's what you should be doing, but we're exploring right now the fact that a teacher is a salesperson by default. Once we accept that metaphor as accurate, let's define what you're selling. You're selling yourself, whoever you are, your level of honesty, respect that you have for the children, the trust you have in their intelligence. If you don't trust their intelligence, then they're going to pick up on that too. That's what they're getting from you. So the question we're going to now relate to, and it's really an important question, that in the world of sales, we're going to watch the parallel very closely to teaching, but in the world of sales, they have essentially spent millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars of research to identify, how do I get my customer, student, from zero interest, or possibly even on the minus scale of the side of interest, zero interest in my product or service, and get them to level 1, want my product, or level 2, need my product, or the highest level of all, must have it. So get this clear. In the world of sales, they have broken down the formula for guaranteeing sales to anybody based on these 3 points. How do you get your customer to want it? Then go to the next madrega, next level of, I need this product. And number 3, must have. What are the mechanics that makes a customer go from zero interest to 1, 2, and 3? It's clear? When you know the answer to that, and then we transfer the answer, the mechanics of wanting, needing to must have, into the teaching formula, you will see clearly what is the way that we can successfully have our children want to learn from us. So, I'm just going to share a little bit more about the mechanics of sales, because all this really comes together in a way that gives us a whole new clarity about me as a teacher. And if you want, you're listening to this as a teacher, but if you want, you can transfer this also into your other identity as a parent or even as a spouse. It's the same formula. It makes no difference what the relationship is. The fact of the matter is, you're a salesperson. You're selling yourself, and you're selling the value system which you represent. To whatever extent you have developed your character, that's what you're selling to that person. But we're going to look at the details of the mechanics of what makes one person want to buy from another. So in this formula, and it's really important, this is like, I'm going to share with you right at the end of this, where the Torah knew this all along. And that what advertising has really done, has reverse engineered what the Torah already offered us up front, because God knows how He created us. He knows how He designed us. So when He gave us the mitzvah of Vishinantam Levanecha, He also gave us the mechanics of how do you successfully teach your children so that they want to learn and can learn and will learn and love learning all their lives. How do you have a child turned on to their Jewish identity so then they're proud, deeply proud of being Jewish, of being from, and knowing why they are, and not ever wanting to let go of it for anything. Okay, so let's look at a very simple formula. It's extremely simple. It's something that we are doing all the time. It's thought, that's true, but I'm referring specifically to sales. And that means, how do sales really work? And the answer is, the master salesman never sells anything. I'm serious. The master salesperson never sells anything. Wait a second. So then how can he get the prize for selling the most product or service and contributing to the bottom line of the company and the profits? So you got salespeople who are the best salespeople, so because they've sold the most real estate or sold the most product. So what do you mean he never sells anything? And the answer is, the best salesperson is the one who gets the buyer to buy. Not because I'm selling to you, but because you're buying from me. Now, that may sound like just semantics, it's just words, but actually they're two universes apart. The difference between me selling to you versus you buying from me is worlds and worlds apart. You know the answer. What is the difference? What's the difference between me selling to you versus you buying from me? So on video, you see the customer walk into the store, pay for a product and walk out. You cannot tell watching the video that distinction between me selling versus you buying. Who cares? You're walking out with a product and that's the bottom line. No, that's not the bottom line. The difference between me selling versus you buying is you're buying into the value of what you're buying because it's good for you. It's going to improve your life in some way. Even if you cannot articulate that, the more I, as a teacher, salesperson, can help you intelligently realize why you're buying into this, the more you're going to want to buy. And when you take this product out, you're going to carry it with you. Whether it's the values, whether it's the culture, whether it's the Masorah, whether it's Torah, whether it's Yirat Shamayim, Ahavas Hashem, you bought it. I didn't sell it to you. If I sell it to you, hey, Rebbe, Murrah, will this be on the test? Why are they even asking? Because we've trained them to learn based on what's in it for me. Will I need it for my grade? Will it be on my report? Is it going to be on the test? And if not, my brain doesn't have to go there. What do you mean your brain has to go there? This is Torah, this is Yirat Shamayim, this is Ahavas Hashem, this is learning Tariq Mitzvahs, this is learning Chumash, this is learning Nach, Mishnayos, Gemara. This is what you're going to take with you after 120 years. None of that has any meaning to a child at this particular point. We want the kids to buy from us, not for us to sell. So how do you do that? What's the mechanic for that? So in the world of sales, they've broken this down into 3 components. Component number 1, you've got to build rapport with your customer. That's number 1. There are other words for rapport like connect, but rapport is it's the headline. Now, when you put the word rapport under the microscope, we can turn up the microscope and figure out, okay, so what are the ingredients of rapport? That's very important. But the first place you need to be is, are you connecting? Do you have a rapport with this customer, with your student? And it's direct between you, the teacher, salesperson, and your customer, your student. We're going to look at the details of that. Number 2, you have to so articulately communicate the value, that's the key word, the value of what you're selling, that the customer says, oh, this is very valuable to me. That's number 2. So number 1, rapport. Do I like this salesperson? Do I want to buy from them? Do I trust them? How do I know that they're telling me information that's going to help me? How do I know they're telling the truth? So, let me give you an example in real life of sales, so you start to get an understanding of how the selling, buying really works, and also so you can understand what I'm describing in terms of building rapport. So imagine you walk into a camera store, and the salesperson says, how can I help you? And so, well, I'm looking for a camera. I said, you come to the right place. So let's say the salesperson does something very intelligent, and besides smiling, which is really important, we're going to talk about that soon, actually asks you what other features you're looking for on your camera. What's your budget? And you start asking questions to help the customer reveal their needs. For the customer to reveal to you what it is they're looking for. Now, once you know what their needs are, the type of features they're looking for, the price range, what will happen if you, as a total stranger, the customer never met you before, what would happen if you say, well, for that price range, I can actually show you a camera that is quite well beneath that price range and has not only all the features that you're looking for, but quite a few extras that I think you might be happy that they are there. And then you show them that camera with the extra features. What's going through the mind of the customer when you shared with him the salesperson, your price range and the list of features, and now he shows you a camera that has all of that plus, and it's less than your price. Hey, there are other cameras that I could have shown you that are near the tip of your highest price that you're willing to pay, and all the extra features that come with it. But I showed you a camera that has everything you're looking for, plus even more, and it's below the price range. What's going to happen in the mind of the customer? And here's the key word that's going to come out. I can trust you. You're not manipulating me. You're not trying to figure out how to show me only the cameras at the higher end of my price range, or even a little bit beyond. So actually, if you can push yourself a little bit more on the price, this camera here, and then you show them a really sophisticated camera, way beyond the requirements that they first listed as the features they're looking for. You see, the point about rapport is trust, sincerity. There are other nukudas as well. There's other points as well. For example, you're coming into the store and you already heard about a particular salesperson from someone else who bought a camera from that store and told you, go to so-and-so because I had a very good experience buying from them, and they're very honest and straight, and they'll help you. And so if you've got a track record, that's point number 3 here. So you're building rapport by asking intelligent questions, and then you show them that you can be trusted. But you've also got a track record because other people have recommended you. Now flip it on the teaching side of the metaphor and recognize that when the customer walks into your classroom, he already knows a profile about you from previous kids in that class last year. So they already know how strict you are or how easygoing, how disciplined you are or non-disciplined, how you can carry the class or you can't manage the class, how much you're going to learn, how much incentives, how much they make the child work and hard and grow internally or not. All that is known. Even if the child can't articulate it, doesn't mean they don't have a profile of the teacher before they walk into the classroom. And then you've got also recommendations where kids are dying and parents are dying for their kids to get into a particular class because that particular teacher or Mora or Rebbe has got a fantastic reputation track record. So the parallel is really close to 100%. It's not 100% exact, but it's really, really close. So let's understand this so clearly. It's not about selling, it's about buying, because we're talking about Bechira, and Bechira is the most sensitive element in the entire creation, in all of world history. Your choice, your thought of the value of what it is you are receiving from this teacher, that's what's going to count the most. And the more you are engaged, the more you love the learning, the more you enjoy this particular teacher, Rebbe, the more you see that teacher, Rebbe, is building you, and we're going to talk about that in detail. You're going to see how simple this is and how powerful it is. I got my script ready for what I've got to do walking into the classroom, and there's plenty of things. There's a lot of work for me to do internally to help you be a buyer and not me be just a seller. Because the more you buy from me and the more you want to buy from me, the more you're going to continue wanting to buy. But not just from me. Once you realize, hey, Torah is beautiful, Torah is delicious, ta'amuru, see it for yourself and taste it. Ki tov Hashem, that Hashem is really good. And the more that we as a teacher can bring Ahavas Hashem into the classroom through our role modeling and help the children recognize that we're helping them build their relationship with Hashem in recognizing the kindnesses Hashem constantly is doing for us. The more we bring chesed into the classroom, the more we talk about Middos Tovos and what that really is, the more we talk about openly about bullying, about jealousy, and the more we role model toichacha in the classroom using the puppets, the more we do one metaphor a week. We've got 29 metaphors to cover way more than the whole school year of how everything is happening inside my mind, and help the children recognize, hey, I can do that because I live in thought just like you do. So I'm always one thought away like you are from the next thought. And that next thought can be one that's above the clouds. That next thought can be one where I recognize that the general has only been sent to entice me, and guess who sent him? The king himself. The Rosh Hashanah sent the Yetzer Hara for me to press delete and go on to the Yetzer Tov, the next good thought. So if you've watched the previous DVDs on all the metaphors, you'll know what I'm referring to. Otherwise, watch them and then you'll know what I'm referring to.